Hey, welcome. I am going to be highlighting art supplies that I bought that I regret buying and the lessons that I learned from doing that. Extend me the grace to know that this is like my opinion. I don't mean any disrespect to any of these brands. First thing, which I feel like is going to shock a few people, is a gallo. But before you come for me, I don't mean their watercolors per se, I mean the dot cards. A lot of the time brands will kind of do little samples of watercolor dot cards so that you can buy them. I haven't tried a gallo paints as of yet, but I have seen them in videos and they look so beautiful, and the palettes are like beautifully put together and like everything about it seems amazing. I can't fault them. It's just the price point is too high for me, and thus when I put it all into context, I was like, I don't want to just randomly buy a few colors. I want to make the most informed decision that I can because it feels like it is an expensive set, and thus I will buy the dot cards. The rationale makes sense. However, when the dot cards actually came, it just hit me that I'd spent £40 on dots of watercolor, like tiny dots of watercolor, and that to me was just like, when I thought I just couldn't do it. So I ended up returning them, and that was penny wise pound foolish. I don't know, like I was really trying to make it make financial sense, but I think in the end, for me personally, especially at that time, it didn't make sense for me to be spending that kind of money on watercolor dot cards. So that was definitely a regret, and I ended up returning them. That being said, I do hope to try them in the future. I think in the end, I will probably just have to buy a palette and see how it goes. The next item is such a bitter pill to swallow because I had wanted this palette for the longest time. I love traveling and I love creating art as a travel, and as a result, I really love travel palettes. Even if I'm using them in the studio, I just feel like they are so clever in the way that they are designed, and they make sense, and they are versatile, and you can use them anywhere. I have made a video highlighting the pros and the cons of all the different types of travel palettes that I have, in case that's something that you're interested in. They're just handy, they're just clever. But anyway, I have wanted this palette for the longest time, and I have been stalking this palette, waiting for the price to drop. And then the price dropped, it came, and I was disappointed. Long story short, this is the Schminke Bijou watercolor travel set, and I think it's so cute. I love the black case, I love the finish of it, I loved the functionality of it having a water reservoir, and the size, it was more compact. So all in all, it all seemed good. The cons for me were that, one, with Schminke, I feel like their paints are okay. Like, they are professional quality watercolors. They just don't really excite me. They don't do anything wrong, but they don't really excite me. Apart from their granulating watercolors, and I can't lie that they've made like a big shift and really made people interested in granulating watercolors over the past few years with their super granulating range. Like, I completely agree with that. This came with colors. I wasn't interested in the colors. Colors are okay, right? Obviously, they have to factor that in the price, but they don't sell it empty. Otherwise, I would have got it empty. So I already wasn't that interested in the paints themselves. And then the set comes, and unfortunately, the lid of the set just keeps popping off. And then the actual palette, the way that it's set up is that the mixing palette itself is at an angle. It's slanted. So basically what that means is that when you try to paint, the water will just bead up at the bottom of the palette rather than it actually standing upright like this, so that the water doesn't like leak off the edge. It's something so small and so little. I was umming and ahhing as to whether I should keep it or whether I shouldn't, but ultimately it just defeats the functionality of it, given that if I were to use it to travel around, it would be a little bit annoying that the palette just slants and all the water is just running off the edge. And so with a heavy heart, I ended up returning it. The thing that I learned from that was that ultimately when I bought it, I was disappointed when I opened it, but because I had wanted it for so long, I was umming and ahhing as to whether I should use it, and whether, like a lot of the time when I get art supplies, as you could probably tell from my videos, I am very excited about them. I am very happy by them. They literally lift my mood. And with this one, I was just kind of like, should I keep it? Should I not? Should I keep it? Should I not? In particular, because like I didn't want to return to Jackson's. Like, it felt like it was like, it's not like returning to Amazon. I felt like it would be a bit of a faff to return everything. I even made a community poll about this, asking people whether I should keep it or not. And that in itself should have been like a very telling sign. Like, I shouldn't have to ask people if I should keep something or not. If I wanted it, that wouldn't even be a question. It would be a new video about, look at this amazing palette. So anyway, I ended up returning it. And although sometimes I still see it and I'm like, was it just a bad one or is it just bad in general? But anyway, yeah. Another regret is, I guess it's twofold. The first one is the Art Philosophy water soluble pastels. I've made a video highlighting my experience with them because I was very disappointed with them because I think I had very high hopes for them as well. But in a nutshell, I felt like they didn't blend very well. They made quite a lot of mess and like crumbs everywhere. And the only thing I really liked about them was their color selection. But as for the actual pastels themselves, I didn't like them and they were a regret. And following that, it was also the Derwent Inktense blocks were also a regret. And I was so confused by their performance, and I've made a video like sharing everything and sharing like my review of it, but I was so confused by their performance that I actually paused painting so that I could go back, watch YouTube videos on YouTube tutorials and see if they were experiencing the same things I was. But this time I turned off the sound. I was just looking at the video to see like, is it streaky? Does it have the particles that I don't like? Is it behaving in the way that I don't like right now? And the answer was yes. Because I was wondering if my batch was faulty or expired or if something had happened, but none of the above had happened. This is actually how they perform for the most part. And if I had taken a moment to really look at the videos, I would have probably noticed this. And I'm not saying this to say that the people were lying or anything like that, because they weren't, and they genuinely love the art supplies. They use it all the time, and you can see that if you look back on all the videos. However, it wasn't right for me, and they weren't right for me. And if I had looked at how they were performing, then I would have probably noticed that from the videos. But I guess I was more focused on their opinion and how it suited their art without translating that to how it might suit my art. And really and truly, I have so many supplies that it doesn't really make sense for me to keep things that I don't love or that I'm not going to use very much. The reason that I've kind of paired these two things together is because both of these things I got because I had seen them in a YouTube video, I think a YouTube art haul video, and the person who had bought them was really happy about them or was swatching them out and was like, this is amazing. And I was like, yes, it is amazing. And immediately I did an impulse buy and I bought both of them. And I understand the irony, given that I make YouTube videos, and a lot of the time when I make them, I am so happy and I love the art supplies that I'm buying. But I think it was just a bitter lesson that not all that glitters is gold, because when both of these things came, they just weren't that great. For me, let me separate them slightly and say that the Art Philosophy, I feel like they weren't that great. However, I was then made aware that in the US, they are quite a different price point. So I think that because, although I'd got it from Amazon, they had got it from the US, it made it the same price as the Neocolor 2s, and the Neocolor 2s were just so much better. Whereas I think normally in the US, they are a lot lower in price, and thus I guess my expectations would have been different. The other thing is that with the Derwent Inktense, even now people are still saying that, you know, it's great and that they love it and giving me tips on how to use them. So if you're also struggling and you have them, then it might be worth checking the comment section of that video, because quite a few people have tips. However, the lessons that I learned from this is, one, not all that glitters is gold, right? Be careful when you're watching these videos. I appreciate the irony, and I'm not saying that people are lying or anything like that at all. I'm just saying that we all like different things. Instead of being swept up in the excitement of it all, if I'd taken a few minutes to like take a closer look at the swatches or see how they behaved, I think I could have probably saved myself some money by not buying those art supplies. I got caught up in that romance and I bought these pastels. And if I were to, I keep struggling to know how to like express this in a way that makes sense. So I hope that you follow me, and it makes sense to you. But with art hauls, obviously the person who's buying these things, endorphins are high, like dopamine is running, they're happy, they're thinking about all the art that they're going to create, and all of that translates into the video. And that is why I love them. That's why I enjoy them. I love sharing the joy when it comes to art supplies, and I love watching it. However, they're not review videos. You know, like they are first impressions, joy-filled videos. An art haul is different to a review, and I feel like if I had remembered that and hadn't got into the moment of it, then perhaps I wouldn't have impulse bought. And also just a warning about impulse buying as a whole. Like it's usually it's a bad idea. I'm just saying it's usually better to put it in a wish list or put it in a basket, sleep on it, come back and then see if you're still feeling like how you're feeling about it. And I think that that's something that I had to learn the hard way, and then I ended up returning them. A note about impulse buying and art hauls and just being careful. And again, irony is noted. I love art hauls. I do art hauls, all of that, but still it stands. If, for example, you're watching one of my videos and I'm talking about how much I love a granulating watercolor and how great it is and everything like that, you may think like, yes, this is a really nice granulating color, maybe I should get the same. But if you hate granulating watercolors, don't let my joy for them mean that all of a sudden you start buying things that you will not like, right? Because you'll think like, oh, what is this rubbish paint? But it's literally just that we like different things. And I think sometimes when we watch artists that we admire, it's easy to forget that. Does that make sense? The next regret is, I guess, I almost want to call it like bulk buying, but it's not that I go out and I bought everything in one go. It's more so that I bought a number of different things and it has accumulated to a large bulk. Some of them I love, some of them I find to be okay. And I find that most of the stuff that I find to be okay, that don't necessarily excite me as much, they are things that I bought quite early on in my journey when I didn't really know what I liked and what I didn't like, but I would still buy a lot of them while I was trying to figure it out. And I think that sometimes it's just better, especially when you're starting to figure things out, to just buy a few things and then figure it out, and then you can buy lots of what you actually like. A good example of this for me is twofold. One is cellulose paper, for example. I like cellulose paper. I don't mind cellulose paper at all. However, when I was starting off, it is all that I would buy, and I have over 100 sketchbooks, sketch pads, sheets of paper, that the majority of which are cellulose paper. But now I love 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I use cellulose paper every so often. My point is that if I had been a bit more patient and I had just bought a few sketchbooks, I wouldn't now have a mountain of sketchbooks that are partially done, not yet done, some of which I love and some of which I think are just about okay. The same kind of applies to the Michael Harding watercolors as well. So I had bought quite a few of them, and then after painting with them for a little while, I realized that I think they're like okay, but for the price, they're not worth it for me. I prefer Roman Schmall, I prefer Daniel Smith, I prefer Sennelier. I prefer most brands more than Michael Harding brand. I think when I was starting off, I was trying to be economical, and 100% cotton watercolor sketchbooks were more expensive than cellulose sketchbooks, and thus to me I would rather buy 3 cellulose sketchbooks than one 100% cotton watercolor sketchbook. The thing is, I can't finish 3 cellulose sketchbooks. I should have just bought that one 100% cotton sketchbook, or at least not bought like 50 sketchbooks before realizing that actually I like a different kind of sketchbook. So just a word of warning, and this is something that perhaps just applies to me, but I'm just sharing it in case it also applies to you. And the other kind of, I guess, word of warning with that is that remember that products, reviews, and opinions also change. So a review that was done a year ago, 2 years ago may not be valid now, because maybe they have changed their manufacturing or something else has changed about it. So always try to, do due diligence when it comes to buying art supplies, so that you don't have some of these regrets too. I feel like my final regret is just more so overconsumption. I feel like I have watched and consumed more than I have created, and I want to turn that around in the year coming forward. And I also want to carry that forward in my videos. So I definitely want to be a place that inspires you and encourages you to create art. Having bought quite a few things that I actually didn't want or need based on YouTube videos, I don't want my videos to also be doing the same things moving forward. Can I say that? I want this channel to be a place where you can come for clarity, where you can come for peace, where you can come for inspiration. Now, in this video, I highlighted the regrets, like the glaring regrets that I can think of when I look back on my art supplies. I wasn't systematic about it at all. It's just things that I know I've regretted, like if you ask me right now off the bat. However, if you would like a more in-depth video where perhaps I look back on all my art hauls and I share the things that I use and don't use, then let me know down below in the comments and we can do that as well, because as I said, things, opinions and tastes change and my tastes have certainly changed over the past few years. If you enjoyed this video, then you will definitely enjoy these other two videos. The first one where I share over 25 ways to save money when it comes to art supplies, and the second one being about doing an art no-buy. I definitely highlight really nice creative ways of using the supplies that we have. Bye. I'm really struggling with this like vlogging thing and I don't know why. I just wanted to mention that again. I'm not trying to trash the brands or anything like that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just want to highlight my opinion so that if you have similar opinions, like don't like X, Y, and Z, then you will be able to save yourself some money. But even if that's not the case, it's always helpful to have the reminders of, you know, don't overconsume, be careful of impulse buying. Art hauls are not reviews and all these other lessons that somehow I had forgotten, but I remember now and I will take with me moving forward.